Well, that's it. Divinity's Reach is back to normal. Winter's Day it's gone. We are, of course, in a new year now. And, well, I wanted to fill you guys in on some of the stuff that was going on over the holidays that I haven't really talked about on the channel just yet. So, we obviously already know a lot about what's happening this first quarter. Or, I say a lot, a good amount of what's happening. We know about the Visions of the Past mechanic. We know that the new episodes is coming. We know, obviously, Winter's Day just ended, but the Lunar New Year is probably going to be really soon, too. Since the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year is actually really close to like the Western New Year this time, so probably very soon we'll be back in another festival. That might be the shortest gap between festivals Guild Wars has ever seen, but there were a few other things I figured I'd talk about as we kick things off. Just some minor stuff, and I know for a fact that one of these topics a lot of you guys probably won't be too interested in, but was much, much warmer received than I'd expected. So it's to do with competitive stuff, and a brand new game type that the devs are working on has been announced. Stuff upcoming for PvP. So just to set the table, we knew last time they were talking about PvP that a big balance patch is coming, like a more significant one than normal, where they're hoping to rain a lot of stuff down. And we also know that they had been talking about doing mini-seasons. They announced mini-seasons way back. Wasn't that with the initial announcement of Icebrood Saga? And where have they been? Well, nowhere. It seems that they're going to be at the end of the next season. This one's just kicked off. Season 20, I haven't started my placements or anything like that. And I guess minis will begin after that. But people were wondering on the official forums what's going on. And it led to the devs not just explaining this basic stuff, but also the announcement of a totally new game type. Seriously, check this out. So we have a fairly lengthy opening post, which I'm not going to bother reading, but the title is Unranked, 2v2 ranked, tournaments, what's going on? See, people were thinking that maybe the mini-seasons would be 2v2s. And, well, Ben comes in. This was on January 3rd. I'm pretty sure they weren't at the office yet, right? Maybe they were. And he says a lot of this stuff is actually in progress right now. Hopefully, we'll be able to give more details soon, and I'll give a somewhat vague status update on each one. First of all, for the big balance patch, our first pass is basically done. CMC is running through some last-minute changes, and it should start internal testing soon. He will talk more about this in a moment, guys. There are some more posts coming up. Swiss, so this is a new variation of tournaments where you basically get to do best out of threes against people instead of just one round and you're instantly out. I'm not sure that Swiss will really help the AT scene. I still think there's going to be tons of waiting around, and the tournaments sound like they might be longer under Swiss, so I don't know about it for sure. But anyway, they say it's almost done, finally, and that we've been waiting for this for a long time. I think the entire time we were in 2019, we were kind of in a place where they were saying Swiss is coming, and it wasn't. It's kind of the PvP version of the World vs. World Alliance feature. Obviously, not quite as long-lived, but that's a good comparison for those of you out of the loop. We ran an internal test on it right before the break, and we're hoping to run some public tests in the nearest future. The last I saw of it, there were still some bugs that needed to be resolved. And for what it's worth, all the tournaments broke again with bugs, I think, this week. The extra gold for tournament wins was not being distributed, and some UI problems on the order of columns not lining up properly, and tooltips and such. Tournaments themselves have had some new bugs that we're looking into, their rewards problems. So we kind of know this. He doesn't say much. Mini-seasons, which I'm actually more interested in. Not just the idea that we could do 2v2, ranked 2v2, right? That is very exciting to a lot of people. But I like the idea of having lots of mini alternate game types, like they have Murder Ball in the game, like they have just the straight-up deathmatch on Courtyard. I doubt that would be that good, to be honest. But also there are festival PvP formats as well that I think what might be pretty interesting for mini seasons if they line up, like snowballs. Anyway, this has given us the ability to run alternate game mode short seasons. Code is being added to track additional rating types now. So basically, before we can do these things, we need to make it so that your 2v2, 3v3 skill rating is different from your Conquest one. And in addition to that, we still need to set up rewards for them. It doesn't sound like they've got too much to do, but you never know how much work is involved in each of these mini pieces. But a kind of admission here that it is going to be starting with 2v2s, and even the idea of 3v3s. There is no real 3v3 map in Guild Wars 2 at the moment, just for those who aren't covering those maps and don't keep up with all the new ones that they were adding. They're really all 2v2 based, but there's one that's a little bit big, and maybe we'll get 3v3s on there. I think that Ben will actually confirm that in a second. He also talked a while ago about a full new armor set for both PvP and World vs. World. And they say there are just some art bugs that need to be fixed, but the art is done for the most part. We're also adjusting the acquisition method. They probably won't just be tossed onto the vendors like previous armors. I was kind of hoping that they would be, because if they just toss them on the vendors, I play so much of this area of the game that I can get them pretty much straight away. But something more interesting to give that extra motivation and build real population to the game types might be nice too. And those vendors are looking a bit bloated, I must admit at this point. Okay, and now something just out of the blue. Look at this, a large PvP map, 15 on 15. So I'm just going to read this and then tell you how people seem to have received it and then how I received it, which are different things. The map itself has been done for a while, but we decided to hold off on releasing it until we were able to get someone to make the user interface changes. Currently, the UI can't handle more than 10v10. Okay, I will actually note here, if you guys play some of the festival minigames, you'll know this. For example, the Winter's Day jumping puzzle, if you look, that's just under PvP UI. You look on the top left, you see people's health bars, but it will only go up to 10 people on the map. I don't think it goes further than that. So they want to, and I think that's like the collapsed health bar version. You know, you get simplified health and you get non-simplified. So they need to have it bigger than 10v10. You need to be able to see 14 allies there, which is a lot of space. They say that 10v10 UI is bad. So they're doing 15v15 and 10v10, both hosted on this new map. It's just one large group rather than using squad UI. Unfortunately, when the programmers looked into how difficult it would be to add squad UI functionality, it turned out that the current way groups are handled in PvP makes it a difficult change. So yeah, I was thinking squad UI, apparently not a one-size-fits-all solution. Basically, it might be easier for us to build a new solution that mimics squad functionality than try to shoehorn the current squad functionality into PvP. So other stuff, there are some other things being looked into, but since they haven't been previously talked about, I don't want to get into more detail at this time. Well, this turned out to be a lot more detailed than I planned, but there we are. So, other stuff, even on top of this. All right, let's talk about 15v15. My instinct to this is I don't like it. Personally, I think every time ArenaNet tries to go fairly big with some kind of new format, they don't give it the love and attention that it needs, and then it just withers away, and it's a pointless endeavor. The handling of Stronghold is the main thing I'm looking at here. And I still feel like splitting the community into these little fragments is a bad idea. I would rather they would come out with some real confidence and some real incentive for their main game mode, and stop treating it like a black sheep, so that people are confident when going into it and confident when deciding to become competitive with it, so they don't feel like it's just a dead end. I feel like throwing 15v15 in isn't going to be that great. I also don't like the idea of 15v15 because it's 15v15. It's just going to be Zergy nonsense where individual impetus and importance and what you specifically are doing is going to feel very weak. This feels like a rubbish, weird half measure to look towards the world versus world GVG crowd to me. None of it is exciting at all. Not even the 10v10 side. It seems pointless. Imagine the matchmaking on this and the time it would take to get groups. What, is this going to be just for customs? And I mean, the funny thing is, I think Ben's going to say later that they did it for customs. Nobody plays customs, except for like 1v1 servers where it's really easy to get something going. I think this is a huge waste of time, and I'm not on board with it, really. I mean, I'll be excited to see a new game type, a new map, a new art, and new updates. They will thrill me just because it's Guild Wars getting updates. So I will play it and look at it, but I would never make this decision to go for this. All that said, me being a Debbie Downer here, the community seems to have taken to it quite well. People hear 15v15, new map, and all I see is people saying, oh, that'll be really good. I don't see any real discussion about how it will work or who it's really going to satisfy or how many players that is. I don't see any real chat, but people just seem to instinctively think it's going to be cool. So I don't want to piss on anyone's bonfires too much here. Maybe it will be great. And a lot of people really seem to feel that way, but I'm just saying we will see. So anyway, there's stuff happening, and that's pretty nice. Now, this does go on for what it's worth. I did get a response here, and about the balance patch, he says it's going to be sizable, so big he don't think it's possible to predict everything. Here's the important bit. He says the plan is to be as quick as possible with adjustments after the big one hits. That is excellent. I want to see, if they're going to do a big balance patch, there have to be quick adjustments. Like, it is not viable if that doesn't happen. Now, what do they believe quick adjustments means? We had periods during Guild Wars 1 where there was like weekly balance for those quick adjustments, small piecemeal quick changes. Are they looking at stuff like that? Is it going to be every 2 weeks? Is once every month and a half a quick adjustment, according to them? Because according to me, it's not. So we'll see. They say also keep in mind that it's going to be primarily splits. There are limits on what they can do, and they've talked about that before. And it's a skill split, they can't change the functionality of a thing too deeply. Another message from Ben down here. Somebody asked, is 15v15 for conquest with objectives, or will it be different in any way? Which is a great question. And he says, just to be clear, we don't even have an internal target on the UI changes we feel are needed. It could still never happen. That's the UI changes, by the way. The only reason I mentioned it is because we talked about the map 15v15 in the past, so it's something already public and the map itself is done. I don't remember their earlier talk about 15v15. What I will say as well, guys, is if you go back and watch my data mining series where we use the Tyria 3D tool to explore maps that the devs had in development but never released, or earlier versions of maps that did release, you will see that there are an enormous number of dead PvP concepts the devs were working on. There's often that question with ArenaNet, oh, what have you been doing? Why is this only what's come out? Why is this? Why is this? And PvP for a long time felt like it wasn't getting updates, even though it had a lot of support from the studio. Then we looked at the data mining, you will see there's so many tweaks on world versus world concepts, small conquest maps, big conquest maps, even like really minor things or totally new game types. We saw like a cart pushing game type, like from Team Fortress 2. We saw Capture the Hill, it looked like. It's crazy. I really do recommend you see those videos. And it just seems that now in 2019, 2020, ArenaNet might still do stuff like that. They might still be looking at what were clearly old 15v15 concepts anyway. Some of the big Keep Assault ones looked brilliant. Moving back to his message, he says, the map was, past tense now, a snow map that was just an open map for open area deathmatch. We've been talking about possibly doing more in-depth stuff, but the first map is going to be very simple. It turns out the UI changes are going to take a long while or not get done at all. We may just release the map as 10v10 in custom arenas, though I'm not sure how much it would get played. Yeah, so he does know that custom arenas is not the best choice because people really won't go into it. It'll be in the Stronghold situation. Stronghold even has its own version for matchmaking, but you have to spend like 40 minutes before you get a game. And then you'll have one random game against people who don't really get the game type, and they're only there because they forgot to set their preferences. And this map would be the same if you put it only in customs. It would be the same as Courtyard. So, I don't know. I don't think it would be enough to lure like the world versus world players over. You've also got the fact that it'd be under a completely different iteration of balance. It'd be under the PvP balance, not the world versus world balance. It does sound like they're going to do it, though. Even if the UI changes don't happen, it sounds like we'll get the 10v10 variant. And it's a snowy map. I guess lines up with Icebrood Saga. We'll see. For 3v3, they would probably just limit it to Asura Arena, as that one's probably big enough. Hallways probably not, or Expand probably not. Yeah, neither of these two are big enough for 3v3, I don't think. And then there's one more meaningful comment here. This is just something we already knew. Somebody asks, can you tell us if 15v15 will be for guild GVG challenges? I like that idea of looking at the guild stuff more. Realistically, probably not. The scope of the map was never meant to be a whole new mode. It was mainly just to give another option in custom arenas, and if we get the UI changes we wanted, we could do special tournaments or mini seasons with it. Getting a more in-depth system is likely off the table. So, as much as I loathe the idea of them wasting time on customs, if it was always to have a customs plus mini tournament or special tournament, mini season or special tournament, I get that. I think that could work. And maybe then they can roll more things in even after this. But the fact is, we need special tournaments running more regularly. We've had, what, 2 lifetime? And we need mini seasons to get kicked up. So this is very down the line. And I think we're very privileged, really, to be able to hear this already, since it's like 3 systems away. But there you have it. That's basically the idea of a new PvP map. And I usually wouldn't even really talk about it in a video, but when I did see the response to it and how thrilled everyone was at 15v15, I thought, hey, maybe it would be something for people. So there you have it. There is another little thing. Now, I've put it in the title of the video. You're going to be a bit disappointed, I am afraid, because there's not that much information here, but it's about ArenaNet's next game. And this, again, came out about 12 days ago, 11 days ago, so pretty interesting. Now, let's set the table. ArenaNet had talked with the layoffs last year about how there was going to be a bit more of a focus on Guild Wars 2. In fact, a lot of the comments we had about this were not from ArenaNet themselves. They were devs that had left and privately, well, not privately, but in their own time, had said Guild Wars is going to be fine, Guild Wars is going to be having the focus. So that's what people thought. But we also heard comments that, look, if a studio isn't working on other games, it's, you know, it's a studio with no future. So it was always implied that ArenaNet would continue working on or pursuing other ideas of games. It just wouldn't necessarily be the majority focus. It wouldn't necessarily be by all the devs that got laid off, obviously. It wouldn't necessarily be the same artistic visions as what had been failing over all these years since Guild Wars 2 released. I think that was all pretty clear. that ArenaNet was working on something else. Well, we got a little bit more detail about what that might be now, as about 12 days ago, Mikram Guild Wars 2 over on Reddit was snooping around on ArenaNet's hiring pages, and, well, here you can see we have a posting for an art director at ArenaNet. They say, we're ArenaNet, we've created a studio that builds online worlds. Now, I do want to come back to that one word there in a minute. Infused with innovation, handcrafted excellence, creative passion. We're not the only ones who share this passion. Gamers made Guild Wars 2 the fastest selling MMO in the West, with more than 3 million copies sold in its first 9 months. And players and press have consistently called it one of the best games of all time. We are looking for an art director to drive art development for an unannounced third-person fantasy action console title. Blah, 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 blah. So, and then they have the actual posting, which I'm not too interested in. So, first of all, I do think that whatever ArenaNet is making is still trying to be an online experience. I do still think they're looking at that, you know, they're still talking about innovation. This is probably just a copy-pasted thing they've been using for ages, right? But I still think that they're looking to do interesting new things, not just be cookie-cutter experiences, identify issues with genres, blah, 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 and work on them. I do think that they're still looking at massively online stuff. There's kind of this in vogue comment about Guild Wars lately that, oh, it's just a single-player game. And, I mean, you'd have to be a fool not to have noticed that for, you know, ever now, since Season 2, really, that they've been focusing too much single-player for story content. But that doesn't mean I think that they just want to make single-player games. I think that it's still important for them to do co-op stuff. I think that's just the groove that Guild Wars has settled in. I think the reason why that happens is actually a really complicated topic, mostly to do with the way that people are taught how to play the game, which I go into on various rants and I will withhold for today. So I do still think the next game will probably be something online. It will still maybe be an MMO, though maybe not with that title. We've obviously seen the MMO genre signifier being taken away in recent years. There's a lot of games that kind of qualify as massively multiplayer and online, but they don't market themselves as MMOs. You might find ArenaNet's next product to be in that category. But here's the big thing, really, and maybe a disappointment. Third-person fantasy action, I mean, come on, that's Guild Wars 2, but then it's a console title. Console. So that's going to disappoint a lot of people, I think. The instinct as a PC player following a PC studio that then suddenly moves to console is not a new experience for me. I've actually gone through this a few times before, and it never feels good. The fear is that if they are first priority looking at console, which is clearly what this job posting says, you're going to see things happen to the user interface that reduce usability even when it gets a PC port, which I assume it probably would. You're going to see design decisions that operate around a more simplified experience, something more controller-oriented, and basically that we, the PC fans that have been supporting a PC studio for all these years, are now going to be gypped out of having a really good game because the devs are looking for a new market. And I think that's all fairly disappointing, and I understand that all very, very deeply. The Elder Scrolls is the main franchise I think of, as I've watched over time, became more and more console-focused until finally we got to Skyrim, and you saw genuinely a lot of complexity, a lot of interest, a lot of things you might have loved about it had been culled away over the years. But what I will say is I don't hate console just for console's sake. I think there are a lot of successful console games. I will give this a shot. If ArenaNet do eventually finally manage to get another thing out and it's console priority, I will cover it. I will look at it. I will see how ArenaNet does with it. They could be going for some kind of Destiny-esque experience, right? Where they look at that specific format of console online looter game and they try to do their own spin on it. And they might do very well with it. So, just because it's on console, I'm not panning it overall, but I get the disappointment. And hopefully, I don't know, there will be a PC variant as well one day, and it's not too poorly hindered by the console branch, which would be a bit of a shame. I do look at a lot of ArenaNet's design and influence and think that they want a more simple game and that they want something more likely to do well and to thrive on console. We obviously had those leaked images for, well, not necessarily leaked, just posted publicly images of what looked like a mobile game. It kind of strikes me that ArenaNet is a studio that would say, all right, well, we've done a big MMO on PC. What does a big MMO on console look like? What does a big MMO on mobile look like? What does a big MMO in VR look like? And they probably play with all those ideas. And maybe the one that really broke through and looks the most marketable and that they're actually continuing with now after all the layoffs is the console one. And that all seems to make quite a lot of sense to me too. There is the other question, which is, all right, how much of Guild Wars 2 resources is this taking away? That's what most people are interested in talking about. And I honestly believe they probably haven't changed very much how many people are working on Guild Wars 2 since the layoffs or whatever. It sounds like, if anything, they had 3 teams before, they've got 4 now, and the only difference is that there's no expansion going on. That's the real story. But is there no expansion because of the layoffs and because this console game's being made? Or is there no expansion because they decided that they could simply get more money out of continuing with Living World and Gem Store updates? I obviously know that I'm very disappointed to not have an expansion, but the two aren't necessarily connected. I mean, the likelihood is it probably is. But there you have it. So this will probably spur a lot of discussion, once again, that we've gone over ad nauseum the past year since the layoffs. But feel free to talk about it. That's the little bit of news there, really, that it does look like a console game is the next coming from Guild Wars. Love to hear what you guys think. One other little reminder / announcement from my end is I'm kicking up streaming again today. We're on the next batch of 90 days for Master, day 182, I think I'm on. And, well, raiding will be starting soon. So if you guys forgot that I do that, it's every day for about 2 hours. In fact, after this video's up, I might be over there. And, yeah, we're going to be setting up some of those challenge modes and stuff. So if you've missed those, it'll be the first time that I'm actually doing something more interesting than running around doing random achievements on Master. So it could be pretty fun. Little reminder for that. There is a lot more coming up with the channel too. Keep an eye out. But I thought I'd start us off this year with just a quick little newsy thing about what happened over the holidays. So thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.